All right. So today's guest is Rebecca Vin. No, I think I pronounced that correctly, but probably not. Regardless, she's an intuitive guide from Montreal. Her passion is teaching people how to create the language between them and their intuition. She developed a unique type of reading called Charmancy, where she gets a snapshot of the client's psyche using charms. And her goal is to merge the worlds of science, business, and spirituality. So, Rebecca, thank you very much for coming on. How are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing well today. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Thank you for deciding to come on and get nice and vulnerable in this capacity for everybody. So, as I told you on the pre-record, I was appreciative when people decide to do that. And definitely, I know that the episodes are always good when I have somebody who's really embodies that whole like heart-centered entrepreneur, right? And intuitives definitely fall into that category. So I'd love for you to just break down for us, like, how did you get to doing what you're doing? Give us a little bit more highlights with regards to your story.
Absolutely. So, my business will be 2 years old in July. So that's when 2 years ago is when I started really putting myself out there in terms of doing readings for other people. About a year or two before that, I bought my first tarot deck. I don't know why I was drawn to it. I went into a store and bought it, and I'm pretty sure I've done a reading every day since then. I was immediately hooked. And I was just looking for anyone and everyone who would let me read for them. And then eventually it only made sense to turn it into a business. Um, and then as my business grew and I worked with more and more clients around the world, um, eventually I started integrating other means of reading, particularly Charmancy, so doing charm readings. And that's kind of become my niche, although I still do a lot of tarot reading as well.
Very cool. I mean, it reminds me of a friend of mine who kind of got into tarot the exact same way. Like her and her friend were going to like a spiritual store. I think it was just to pick out one of their birthdays, and then like she was just drawn right to the deck. Came home like never used it before. Friends like, yeah, you should probably use it. Like, I don't know how to use it. She's just started it, and it was just like a thing that like there was like a natural progression to it, and it sounds like you had did the same experience. So I was just curious then, how did you go from tarot to doing what you're doing right now with charms?
Well, I'm a big fan of research and learning. So if I'm interested in a tarot deck, I want to read everything there is to read about tarot. And at some point on my research journey, I heard someone talk about charm casting, which for people who don't know what that is, it's where you take small objects, buttons, thimbles, stuff like that. You assign a meaning to them, and then you drop them, and they really just tell a story based on how they land, almost like they're talking to each other or about each other. So I've always been a collector of small objects and trinkets. So as soon as I knew that was a thing, I went and made my own set. I never thought to use it on other people until one of my clients asked me one day if I knew anything about charm reading. I pulled out my set and did a reading for them, and people ask for it all the time. They definitely love it more than tarot readings, it seems.
That's pretty cool. And I've actually never heard of that before until today. So actually, thank you very much for explaining it. And I'm actually asking these questions more for my own curiosity right now, and I promise you we'll get to kind of why you were here today. But what popped into my head when you were sharing the aspects about like the charms and like you drop them and they tell a story. So like my background's Serbian, and in that part of the world, like reading coffee cups is a very like common thing, like especially with like, your grandma or like your grandma's friends, like they would always just flip the coffee cup over, and then they'd look at the patterns the coffee made, and it's like it was like the same response. Like the patterns in them tell this story, which I interpret now as like they are using that as the vehicle through which they receive the psychic information. So I'm just kind of curious on your end, like, is that how you experience charms and that whole process?
Very much so. And that's actually a nice segue into my passion, which is like teaching people to create the language between them and their intuition, whether it's charms, a coffee cup, clouds, candle wax, whatever it is. As long as you decide to look for a story, so you're deciding the object will give you information, and you have a particular goal in mind for that information, you're going to get the information. Anything can be used for divinatory means. And you don't even need objects. So once you really believe and trust that aspect, well, then it can just be gut feelings or images that pop in your head. Our intuitions are constantly speaking to us. So all it takes is the belief that our intuitions are constantly speaking to us. And then you can get any object to tell you a story. From objects to numbers to seeing 3 crows fly by. If you give it meaning, it'll have meaning.
That's super cool, right? It's like the intention imbues the material world to like reflect back to you what is already present. Like that's kind of how I'm interpreting what you're saying. So thank you very much for that. That's actually a cool connection between like these two worlds. Actually, I had no idea we're connected. So I appreciate you for that. That being said, so it's abundantly clear, as many of the guests that I have on, that like, you're coming into this with such a wide variety of like knowledge and the connections between them. And even your bio say you want to bridge the world, with like science and spirituality and business. So you're coming at this very experienced and very knowledgeable. So what is coming up in your business right now that isn't really allowing you to make that shine as far as growing the business?
Well, as an intuitive, I'm definitely more dreamy than like very practical. So consistency with things like marketing and even just like programs that I put in place for my clients. I'll be like super fascinated by it 1 month, but then the next thing is interesting to me and I'm building the next project, and it's hard to kind of keep up with that momentum, especially as I'm always trying to integrate new ideas and new projects while keeping the old ones alive and keeping the momentum that I've built towards those. So I guess it's kind of like every time I throw a new ball into the juggling match, it's hard to manage the juggling.
Got it. Okay. So there's one aspect where like it kind of sounds like inspiration strikes and you follow the inspiration and like you create the thing, but so much of your time is spent in the creation bit, not really in the like whatever you want to call it, the advertising, marketing, getting yourself out there space. So number one, is that accurate or would you add to that?
That's definitely accurate. And then there's also the big chunk of like direct work with clients. So people ordering readings from me. So I do it like via email or via video. So being able to carve out time to fulfill those readings, create what I need to create, and then also do the marketing and just staying on top of the more practical business aspects.
Okay. So would you say then like lack of focus is what sums that up, or would you give it a different wording?
Lack of focus or a very often redirected focus.
Okay. So like scattered focus might be more.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. And how is that affecting your business results?
Well, when one of those 3 parts is increased, the others suffer. So when I am full force in creative mode and I'm marketing less, my sales drop. So I don't, because I'm not out there as much, I don't get as many orders for readings. When I'm fully focused on fulfilling orders for readings, maybe I'm not marketing as much. So again, my sales might drop, or even my intuitive flow suffers when my creative flow isn't nurtured, because they very much go hand in hand. So I need the 3 to be well balanced in order for each of them to be healthy.
And the 3 would be, so the creativity, like creating,
working directly with clients, and then the more practical business aspects like marketing, editing my website, stuff like that.
Got it. Like marketing. Okay. And as far as how that's manifesting in your business, like, is it, I just don't have enough clients, I don't have enough revenue, I don't have the right clients, it's up and down in terms of like feast and famine type patterns? Like, how is it actually manifesting in your business?
I would say I have a consistent, steady flow of clients. The way it's manifesting these days to the last few months is that it's taking me longer and longer to fulfill their orders. And I guess that would reduce I mean, I haven't had complaints, but I can only imagine that would reduce customer satisfaction and would also reduce the likelihood of them ordering again if they have to wait a month for their reading, whereas 6 months ago I was delivering them same day. But as the volume of clients grows, and as I'm also, writing the books and making the courses and stuff like that, the delivery time is what's suffering most, I would say.
Got it. And if the delivery time suffers, then kind of the satisfaction of like the client getting their things suffers. And if it's taking them a lot longer to get them, they might not do a follow-up by like in a shorter amount of time. So like all of those things kind of ripple effects. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And I guess that affects revenue too, because most of my clients are repeat clients. They come back very often. So if it takes them a month to get their reading, that's a month before they're going to come back for another reading. So it delays the repeat client aspect as well.
Got it. So many repeat clients, but now there's like this delay of actually like the turnaround of delivering the fulfillment. So it's delaying when you might get your next revenue bit. While at the same time you're stalling on the marketing, so you're not ever attracting anything new. So it kind of sounds like you're in this limbo state where like I'm doing all the work. It's kind of like that hustle and grind pattern, but like it's not really moving me forward in any tangible way.
Exactly. I do see it moving forward, but it's not at the pace that I would like. It also doesn't seem sustainable the way that I'm doing it now, because it's a lot to manage and a lot to think about. So just energy wise, it's not super sustainable.
Got it. So given the fact that you do have such intuitive gifts, right? And a big part of what you do is teaching other people to use those gifts for themselves. What would you say is the core challenge or issue that is perpetuating these patterns?
Oof, tough question. A lot of it, as a perfectionist, is needing things to be just so before calling it complete, which is energy draining and time draining. So I really try to abide by the saying, good enough is good enough. I like, especially with my readings that I schedule out 15 minutes to complete, like I'll easily spend double the amount of time on it, because if it pulls up another question, I'm going to go into that as well for the client. So I tend to go into very finite detail with every aspect of what I'm doing. So perfectionism, and then self-doubt as well, which propels the perfectionism.
Okay. So being aware of that, and then it's great self-awareness. Like you, not only did you like identify it right away, but like you saw exactly how it plays out in the business. What do you think is stopping you from transcending it?
Oof. Another good question.
I'm 2 for 2 then. So
Yeah.
okay.
um I think most perfectionists could agree with this, is perfectionists are perfectionists because they can imagine the perfect end result. So to deliver anything less than that can be like really painful. You can see it in your mind and you can get it to that point of like really high quality or really perfect. Anything less than that is even though I know it benefits me, it drives me nuts. I have a hard time. I don't want to skimp on clients either, which usually skimping is still above what they're asking for. Same thing when it comes to like putting new products on my website. I want every detail on there. I want the pictures to be perfect. So I think my block is, even though I realize that I'm a perfectionist and that it hinders me, I love the perfectionism.
What do you love about it?
The perfect end product is the result. That's what I love, being able to deliver a really nice, high quality result.
And how's that working for you overall?
Well, I guess that actually prevents me from delivering as much or as many results as I would like to deliver.
So then is it actually perfect?
No.
But it is perfect for something. So what do you think it is perfect for?
Um, I mean, I don't, I think it's really important to take the time and the energy to go like extra in depth for the readings, like working directly with clients, I'm more than okay with maintaining the perfectionism in that area, because the result is, I mean, helping people and giving them clarity and peace of mind and answers. When it comes to like making products on my website and writing out the description, that doesn't need to be perfect. So I guess it's just being able to balance where I'm willing to let go of the perfectionism a little bit.
Got it. So tell me more about this aspect of like, okay, I can release the perfectionism on the, copy and like little color details and like all of those things. Like I get it, but I don't want to release it as far as like over delivering for clients, because that's kind of what I heard. Like I'm
Yeah.
okay with this came up, it's relevant. Like I'm not going to cheap out on the client, like hold information back. I want them to get the transformation. So I'm okay with being like the perfectionism happening out in that regard. So do like, have I heard that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So why is the perfectionism okay there?
Because the only reason I started this business was to help people. So if I have it in my ability to help someone and then I don't, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Perfect. And in that scenario, is there somebody who actually isn't being helped by that setup?
Well, I think you're trying to lead me to say me.
Well, if
But I
I
find it,
am, is it resonate with you that you would be the answer to that question?
yes, but indirectly, because indirectly in that, like, maybe it means other parts of my business suffer, but that's the fulfilling aspect for me, is being able to deliver those answers to clients and give them that clarity and peace of mind. That's the part that makes me feel good.
Agreed. And is over delivering above and beyond what they paid for necessary for that?
Hmm. I think that's tough to answer because I've never really allowed myself to hold back on information. Like if I see it and I feel it, I have to share it. So I don't actually know what it would be like to cut myself off at a certain point and not give information that I see just because they haven't paid for it.
Beautiful. So I would agree with you. I think as far as being a master of your craft and really imbuing the caring of what you do into it, the over delivery is kind of like a part of it.
Mhm.
So then if we inverse that question and not ask, okay, is the over delivery okay? Is the under receiving for you okay?
Under receiving in what sense?
So right now, and like I can walk you through my notes, like what I'm hearing is this, like you have a beautiful problem, right? I'm so booked up that like I have a hard time fulfilling. Okay. I want to continue to fulfill. There's this aspect of perfectionism, and that's what I label it when I over deliver to people for what they pay for. I always give more, and I want to continue to do that. And to do that continues to make these patterns in my business that ultimately cause it to stagnate or to not grow as well, or for me to not receive as much as I know that I can receive financially. Not once have I heard you suggest, well, like, what if with all this demand, I just increase my prices? Right. So I'm curious why that never came up.
Well, interestingly, I did increase all my prices about 3 months ago. I almost doubled them. I realized I was way undercharging. And even now my prices are very fair. Um,
And what if you double them again?
that would feel greedy to me.
Okay, that's interesting. So why?
Because so my intention with starting my business from the get-go, as someone who believes in manifestation and consciously creating whatever I want to create, I believe it's possible to build a really successful, lucrative business where I can help a lot of people and it still be affordable to, the majority of people. So what I've been working on, and that's part of the creative process, is supplementing that, you know, slightly cheaper readings than maybe the biggest name readers out there with passive income. So if I can boost my passive income, then there's that kind of takes a bit of the financial cushion. It gives me enough financial cushion to be able to keep my prices at a reasonable, affordable price, so that the readings are still accessible to the people who really need them, which is most people.
Sure. So then it really comes back to, is it reasonable if the current way of doing things is unsustainable for you?
No.
Okay, so why not?
Well, because it's unsustainable. Yeah.
Right. So what I'm hearing as you're speaking, it's like that there's this deep, very honest desire to want to serve. I think that's palpable, and nobody can deny that that's what's showing up. It is, however, being distorted by one narrative of I have to be accessible to everybody and I'm okay to over deliver to everybody. But right now I'm in this pattern that's completely unsustainable where, I'm drawing my energy out too thin. I have to choose between doing one activity over the other. I can't really focus on the growth of my business. I can't focus on nurturing the creativity required to grow it and the amount of time it takes me to actually deliver for what it is that I'm actually receiving. So the amount of time it takes me to give in proportion to what I'm receiving keeps increasing, thereby also creating this pattern where that might begin to impact me long term. The fact that I can't give people a return reading faster also impacts their progress. But even though it's unsustainable, it's reasonable for me to just keep everything low because there are these two conflicting narratives and they're kind of happening in this limbo state of your business. So what comes up for you when I reflect that?
Well, very accurate observations, I would say. And it's something that I'm aware of and I've been trying to find solutions for. And my solutions are to be able to reach more people at once. So it doesn't have to always be a one-on-one basis. And that's in like creating courses and stuff like that. And then also boost the passive income, specifically through not just randomly, but through means that help other people. So, I wrote a book called Charmancy where I explain exactly how I do charm readings and the way I do them. So people want readings from me and I'm not available. Well, they can go and buy the book and learn how to do it themselves and still have access to that means of information. And I still get, the passive income in the background.
So,
But
yeah, go ahead.
But I feel like I'm in this in-between state where it's going to take a while for me to build up enough passive income or enough means of helping more people at once to be able to financially sustain it.
Agreed that is a long-term play, 100%. And it's interesting to me that where your brain went to and kind of going down this line of questioning is, okay, so I got to build up passive income. I made this book that's going to be accessible to people who can't book the readings. Everything makes sense, beautifully articulated, etc. However, it is not the book and the passive income elements that you sell that is actually contributing to what makes your current situation unsustainable, right? It is your active delivery at the price point that is creating the volume that you're getting that's actually perpetuating the problem, right? It's not the passive courses and books that people can buy off of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how much your passive bit grows, you can still be experiencing the exact same problems you're experiencing right now. So the question then really goes back to, okay, so what am I doing to contribute to that? And the one question that your brain avoided answering directly is, even as a hypothetical, what happens if you double your prices again?
Yeah, I do have a hard time answering that one. I guess I have a fear of losing all of my clients or losing their trust. by boosting my prices.
Fair. And do you think you risk the same thing by extending the time for delivery?
Yeah, I do. It's something that like I feel guilty about every day, and so much pressure to deliver,
Right.
because I worry about losing their trust in what I have to deliver.
So it's better to stay in guilt and continue doing what you're doing than execute a business move that you've actually already done. Like you've already doubled your prices once, saw that it didn't lead to anything. You're actually in high demand yet again, but might as well just stay the course and continue perpetuating the current pattern than do something you've done before that's led to good results. And ultimately, I would argue probably you didn't do it enough, because here you are in the same good problem to have, which is you're actually at capacity. So then the question really becomes, it's what is so scary about doubling your prices?
Yeah, definitely the fear of losing the like really solid client base that I've spent the last 2 years building. Is that if I push it to a certain point when it comes to raising my prices, where they're gonna say like, oh no, we can't support this. That's too much. You're being greedy now.
Right. But it's okay to make them happy, but keep yourself unhappy and pushing an unsustainable business model.
I suppose so, but I also suppose not.
Sure. So give me both sides. Like why yes, why not?
Yes, because my purpose is to help other people, but no, because if I don't fill my own cup, then there's not enough to pour out to other people.
Correct. And I know you know that intellectually. And the reality is, having lived through it once, double your prices once, if you got to this point again where you're at capacity, is it really true that by doubling your prices again, you're not going to find a way to help more people?
I guess not.
Right? Because even if we just look at this like in cold hard numbers, if you double your prices and lose half your clientele, you've increased your capacity by double. So like you have twice as much time to do other work while making the exact same amount with a way larger capacity to then creatively think, how can I allow myself to impact other people that maybe isn't as cost prohibitive, right? Or whatever else that you come up with. So what comes up for you when I reflect that?
Well, I have a hard time denying logic, and that's very logical. And then logic also tells me like there's no way I would lose half my clientele, because I do know for a fact I deliver good, high quality product, that I don't doubt at all. So it's definitely given me lots to think about.
Well, I'm glad, and I applaud you for staying open to that possibility, because even from the start there was a very resistant, like as soon as I mentioned, I was like, nope, that like I just can't, like, it's not going to help other more people, etc. Right? So I applaud you for going there, right? And I'm not necessarily saying that is the best business move you can do. Yeah, technically we need more context, but as far as just what's presented here, right, it's pretty clear that right now you're running on a paradigm that puts others at a pedestal above your own needs, right? Like I'm willing to endure and tolerate the unsustainability and the stress of this and the doubt and the worry that it causes, and all of my imagination be taken up, like what if, how, the guilt, etc., over just simply saying like, hey, I actually on average over deliver for every single reading that I do. For a 15-minute reading, I actually deliver, right? Like right now, you're actually overpaying. Like you're overpaying on the giving,
Yeah.
right? Like somebody paid for 15-minute reading, you're delivering 30 minutes because of who you are and what good you want to do. Great. But the flip side of that is energetically, you're shorted, right? Like you are not
Mhm.
getting the recharge that you're asking for. You are actually not in integrity because you're not allowing yourself to receive to the extent that you're allowing yourself to give, right? So even in terms of like, how much can I impact? Like you said, I can only impact as much as my cup is full, but across the board, like your bucket full of holes, right? So from that way, like it's very hard to then use that as a jump off point to actually deliver more, right? So what comes up for you there?
Well, I see what you're saying. I I didn't realize how much of a mental block I had around upping my prices. So that's interesting because that was clearly a blind spot. So yeah, I definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah. And I'm glad that it's sinking, right? Because it's usually like, this is kind of like the starving artist bit, right? Like it's usually the ones that are really good at their craft that then really discount it, like to the point where it's like detrimental, right?
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that this conversation allows you to take a look and expand, like, okay, there are reasons why I have this block. This is a big limiter to my growth, right? I think the perfectionist title or label that you give to it is a nice wrapping, but I think there's something deeper underneath that, right? Like you mentioned the self-doubt, and that's something, you know, that we could also dive into. But really it was when you said, like, for me, skimping is like not going above and beyond what they're asking, right? Like you said that so casually without even thinking twice about it. Like your default is to give more. And if you don't give more, then it's skimping. When the reality is, the definition of skimping is if like they paid for a 15-minute reading, you gave them a 10. Like
Right.
that's skimping. But in your head, skimping is if I don't give them 30 minutes. Right. So the only one you're really skimping here is on all of the energetic abundance you could be receiving in the form of money that you're currently not.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point.
So what are kind of your biggest takeaways with regards to that?
Well, I think the last point you just made is a great way to put it. In that my expectation is to always over deliver, and anything less than that, which I mean, very much falls in the perfectionist mindset. Anything less than that is it's like a failure of a reading, or it's not good enough, and that's impacting the growth of my business and just my overall mental health too, because if I'm stressing more or worried or feeling guilty or feeling the time pressure, I mean, that puts stress on the body and the mind. But it also, something I didn't really realize, but it also, like what I said earlier, was I want to keep my prices affordable so I can reach as many people as possible. But by boosting my prices to be able to like energetically handle delivering more, I actually have the potential to do more readings, or like actually reach more people individually, which is interesting. I hadn't considered that part.
Yeah. And it's a great observation, right? And a testament to how quickly you do pick things up, right? Because it's really a capacity issue, right? Like as soon as you do that, it allows for more capacity. And then,
Mhm.
you know, the kind of business strategy bit opens up. So it's like, do I keep, let's just say, my readings, whatever you want to call it, like higher priced, really high priced, whatever, like my energy is protected. But then I spend the rest of my capacity creating content that's free, creating content that's very low price, that is like self-study type content, or I just show up in some capacity every month, every week to be accessible to more of the masses. You know, like there's so many options that are available, but they're only available when you actually have the capacity to do something with them. Right now, the mindset, the lens, the actions, and the paradigm that you're running guarantee you aren't able to explore those options or even figure out what's the most aligned one, right? So I think that
Yeah.
really is the big part that stands out.
Yeah, very, very interesting, super insightful.
No worries. And one of the last things I just wanted to bring to your attention as we wrap this up was Like you had mentioned your kind of three elements, right? Like I have like the creating, I have the fulfillment with regards to clients, and then I have the like practical ones like the marketing. So when you were initially speaking about that, the question popped into my head was like, what if the marketing could be creation?
In what sense?
Like, what if the marketing could be a creative outlet?
Well, I think in some capacity it is, because I mean, all, like, I don't run paid ads or anything like that. The way that I market is all through social media, mostly TikTok, which definitely involves a lot of creativity. And I've merged client fulfillment with that too, in that people can pay for TikTok readings. So I'm working directly with the client. I'm doing the creative aspect of like creating content, creating a video, and then it's also marketing. Those are my highest performing videos, is when it's readings for people, which then generates more sales. But I hadn't considered that, thinking of the marketing more creatively. When I started my business, I said, I don't want anything to do with the business side of it. I hate it. I just want to do readings, and I'll hire someone to take care of that for me. But I've ended up really enjoying it as I've learned about it, and it's kind of come naturally as my business has grown. So that perspective would clearly, I still have some blocks when it comes to how I feel about the business side of things.
Yeah, 100%, right? And especially because when you were saying that, I was like, oh, this makes actually absolute sense. And it's such a good way to piggyback on the two, right? So this is, I think, something for you to go deeper into, where it's like this distinction between the delivery, the marketing, and the creative, right? It's almost like, what is the through line, that like the string that connects them all together? And how can I harness that so that marketing becomes something fun, right? And I think a lot of it comes down to, well, the business isn't fun. The business is antithetical to what it is that I want to achieve. Meanwhile, the business is the vehicle through which allows you to actually have the impact that you want, right? So I think there's going to be some work there to really shift what is your relationship to this thing you call business, when the reality is you can actually create it to suit whatever it is that you want to do and however it is you want to express yourself, right? So I think there's something there for you to explore as well.
Yeah, I think so too.
Beautiful. So in that case, as far as like, I know we can't dive into all of these things like in all the detail to like, help you transcend them like in this container, but as far as like what we can cover today, does this feel complete for you, or is there still something left outstanding?
It feels complete to me. In fact, um, I've already gotten more out of this than I was expecting. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for allowing yourself to come on a container like this and go through this process. So if you could then just close us off, just summarizing in your words, kind of like how were you when you came into this container, and then what were your highlights and takeaways as you come out?
Yeah, so I was nervous because I didn't really know what to expect. But I love a challenge and I love the opportunity to learn. So my intention was to come in um, calm, clear, and confident. That was what I was repeating to myself. And to have an open mind and open heart, and be willing to take whatever feedback came up. And I'm pleasantly surprised that you were able to identify some of my blind spots, which truly were blind spots. So it's um what would the word be? It's beneficial to be able to see a blind spot. It's so I'm very grateful, and you've given me lots to think about.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thank you very much. And floor is now yours. Let everybody know, where they can find you, who's the best person to find you. I can close this off with that.
Perfect. So the best place to find me, where I'm super active, is on TikTok. So my TikTok handle is Beckon and Eggs. So BECKONANDEGGS. And if you do want to get a reading from me, that would be on my website, www.rebeccavigeant.com. So I'll spell that out for you. It's REBECCA Vigeant.com.
Beautiful. And yeah, we'll include all of that in the show notes and in the links. Rebecca, thank you very much for coming on, and for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.